Well, hi. Having a brew day. I'm making a Scottish heavy today and it's just a normal English pale ale. Not going to go into much detail. I might show you a few shots of what some of the ingredients and stuff like that, but I'm not going to go too far into that. One thing I am going to do, I need to. I'm thinking it says. Yeah, I'll do it in a second, but I want to quickly go through some of my kegging stuff because I haven't done that for a while. Show you some of the parts. I'm also going to be changing over one of the valves on my system because the one I got on there I put a very low PSI version one on there and I broke it. So I've got one which is actually covers the range up to just over about 35 PS. That's about 2.5 bar. So that should more or less cover the whole range I need for forced carbonation, which I'm going to do about 30 PSI. My fridge is at a constant 12 centigrade, but I'll show you that soon as well. And yeah, and obviously I can still see with normally pressurised at about 10 PSI, 10 to 12, depending on whether I've got something more English or American based on there, or what these are higher carbonation. So I'll try to cover a lot of things. I'll go start the kegs and clean out some kegs now. Then I'll go on to how I do the forced carbonation, what I use, and the regime that I use. For starters, I can't really say for regime wise, I don't really go too much fuss. What I've started doing is doing a bit of forced pressurization for about 2 or 3 minutes at a high PSI to start off with, and just leave the beer on a certain pressure for a while. But I will talk about that more soon. Anyway, let's show you a coolie keg and we'll go from there. You're not going to see my face, I'm going to see my hands, but let's talk about it. Perhaps a little bit of history. I think these used to be, Pepsi and Coca-Cola used to use these to transport their Coke and their Pepsi and all the other fizzy drinks they used to sell. Nowadays they just use a concentrator and dilute it with tap water and carbonate it and chill it all in one go, obviously. But yet they send all these out to all the pubs and all the shops and things, and these used to be pre-filled with their Coca-Cola, and off they went really. They used these for good, I think maybe 20-30 years, and then they stopped doing it and moved over to the concentrates. And then luckily for the homebrew community, there were millions upon millions of these ones actually knocking around in the obviously, and so yeah, it's been ideal for homebrewers. This one here is second hand. You can see it's got a bit of, it's fallen apart a little bit. This was actually covered in these stickers when I first got it, but I've actually scrubbed it back. But most of these have all been made. Yeah, on there it says Holland. It's made in Holland, but if you look on the side here, there is also some writing sometimes. Yeah, I think this one's got quite a lot of German on it. It's like German, it says so Italian writing on the type in German. So there's quite a lot going on there really, but I mean, who really cares? What you've got a pressure release valve here. I think if the pressure gets too much, it'll actually push itself out and stop the whole keg from popping open. These kegs can take up to 100 PSI plus, so I wouldn't really worry about them blowing up too much, but hopefully the valve would actually pop before the pressure got too much. There's 2 connectors here. It's called quick connectors, and let me get you a connector and show you it. So yeah, this is a beer out connector. Try to see what make it is. It's So it's got CMB on the side there. If you're going to get them with this brand. You can either have ones which have got a spur which is actually threaded. So if you ever get a beer gun, like a beer gun, you can actually screw these straight on there, which is quite good. I normally do these hand tied, don't bother using I use a cloth to hand tie them up. So that's normally sufficient to put these on. Or you can get them which have actually got this this piece on here, which is for obviously just pushing your pipe onto. You can also stick a clip onto those as well. Inside, as you can see, there's a few little ball bearings here which actually engage with this joint, this gap here on the connector. So that's where the balls pop into. A point worth noting is there's two different types of these connectors. Obviously, as I said before, I think Coca-Cola and Pepsi did use these, and Pepsi had a slightly different connector. I think both are exactly the same in respect of what they do. You put gas in one side and the liquid comes out the other. But obviously, if you go into one type or the other, you just got to obviously remember to always buy the right connectors, because you'll be a bit stuck if you don't. Let's just pull one of these apart. Get knocked slightly there. I've got a screwdriver handy, but let's take these apart. Okay, so it just screws out, quite simple. You've got a this top holds it in. Let's have a look. Okay, so it holds in three parts. You've got a spring, you've got a little valve, and that sits in there like that, and that rubber grommet there seals against the to stop any beer coming out, or gas, depends which way you're using it. So anyway, this spring sits on top of there, and then this connector here sits on top of that. So you can see it just pushes it down. When it's working, when you push it onto the cooling keg, this pushes up to let liquid flow up or air flow down and into there. That's about it really. The reason I say to get the C&M brand is because they're far tougher. You find if you get some of the knockoffs, you'll get things where they'll crack around here or crack around here, because they're just not designed. They're just obviously a bit of a shoddy copy. Sometimes you may find that these ball bearings are a bit stiff. They get a bit sticky from being sat in obviously with beer all the time. Best thing to do is to soak it in some hot bubbly water, give it a good rinse, maybe some sodium percarbonate if you want to, and strip it all down and soak it in sodium percarbonate. And when you put it back together, give it a good spray of Star Sand. Just let Star Sand just move around there. Sticking it on. Let's have a quick look and see how we put it on. First thing you've got to find out is whether or not it's an in or out. This one says in here and out there. Also, you can see the gas in. It's got they've got little notches on the bolt here, whereas this side where the liquid comes out, it hasn't. That's not always the same. Some people might interchange it, but you'll see somewhere it'll say in and out. Putting it on, what I generally do, I lift the connector up, pop it on, and then let's have that. What I'm doing here, I'm trying to put the gas out onto the in. Rookie mistake, doesn't work. These are the out is actually slightly smaller than the in. Anyway, pop it on. and you can see you get lots of beer squirting everywhere, but just keg is just empty. Let's do that again, not soak myself in beer. Right, so clean up. As you can see, it clicks on nice and smoothly when you stick it on the right side. If you're doing that on that side, you're going to end up with it jammed on and spend hours cursing at it. So yeah, that's about how those connectors work. So yeah, that's the keg. Let's just strip it apart and have a look into some of the other bits. I'm not going to take it completely apart. Sometimes I will strip out the connectors and things and give it a big rinse out. I don't bother doing that. I just do that once a year, and the rest of the time I just rinse it out with hot water and go with that. So this one here, get it out. You just knock it off. It'll most likely come pre-pressurized, so you get a new one. I've got silicone rings on these, and also I've got, well, I haven't got silicone rings on the edges here, but I have actually got some silicone for these connectors. I'm not going to take these off, but you can actually just screw these off. You'll find that if you look inside there, you'll see there's a short connector, and at the bottom there you can see, at the bottom maybe you can see anything, yeah, so there's a bit of yeast in the bottom there, but there's the pole there goes all the way down to the bottom and sucks up the beer from the bottom. So simple bit of physics, this gets pressurized and it pushes the liquid down and squirts out of this connector here. What I'm just coming on to is these the gas regulators. Normally they come with a thing to say how full it is, but these are for very large gas chambers, so it doesn't actually move much at all when I'm using this. But what also happens is that you get a meter with it. I think these are like a quarter of an inch connectors. I've been using this one here. You can see I've actually broken it, but then it goes about 15 psi, and I had another one which was even higher than that. When I was like force carving it, it only come up like a little smidge in here, and it's very awkward to work out what it was set to. So ideally I want to be able to set it to about 10. So let's see, 10 on this one here. It's the new one I've got. This one cost about £8 from a company called RS Components in Bristol, in the UK. You can buy it online. But this one here, as you can see, it goes up to 2.5 bar and up to about 35 PS, and the maximum I'd be forced carving up to is about 30. So this is what I'm going to stick onto this thing here. I've just taken it off here. I'm just checking the thread was okay, so that's good. So what I'm going to do is stick a bit of PTFE tape onto this and screw that onto there, and then I'll stick it back onto the bottle. What I've done, I've coated this in PTFE. You always go in the direction of the thread when you put PTFE tape in. And you try to get it so you can see obviously the thread starting to disappear. Can you see that? So now I'll screw it in. So there we are, I've screwed this in nice and tight. Let's attach it up and do some pressure testing on it. Okay, so I thought I'd just go with my setup. This is my gas canister. This fits down beside my fridge. I've got my fridge and my understairs cupboard. It's quite gooey. Got my new valve on here. Got it set to 10. Didn't want to focus though, is it? There we are. So that's set to 10. It seems to be holding its pressure. I can't hear anything coming out. You know, I haven't done much pressure testing. Anyhow, it goes through the thing here. I used to have a tap on the outside, but I took that off. Don't be bothered. Got party taps. I use party taps on my my kegs. There we are. Turn autofocus on might help, won't it? Party taps. Got a Russian Imperial Stout there from somebody. Ooh, I've even got chili porter there. I think that's Rusty Homebrews, which I never got around to drinking. But yeah, got an APA I did before. Got a summer ale made a few weeks ago. A few extra beers in here. I can actually fit 4 kegs in here, and in total I've got 5 kegs in total. Which, if I do happen to fill all of them up, I would actually just carb the one keg and leave it outside, and big it in when I needed it. So that's it. Down the bottom here, well, I got a thermometer on the inside here, which normally around 12. I'll just keep this fridge on. Just keep this fridge on about 1 there, and it's sufficient to actually keep it down to the right temperature. And down the bottom here, I just built a wooden stand here, and I got a bit of glass on top of that wooden stand for to obviously keep any moisture out of the ground there. But yeah, that's my setup. Anyway, let's talk a little bit about forced carbonation before I finish. What I normally do is, if I want to have the beer pretty quickly, I'll set it up to 30 and lay the keg down and just roll the keg while it's on pressure, and do that for about 3 minutes. You'll hear the gas streaming in as you're like rolling the keg on the floor. Really though, you should be allowing that beer to condition a bit, and why not just pop some pressure onto it. I've got this on. Set this on to 10. What I normally do is just set it on to 10, and every now and again I just like turn the pressure on so it comes up to 10 again. And if we have a peek inside, oops, I've got a bit of a so what we've got here, we've got 2 new kegs. Let's see if we can focus in on them. Got 2 new kegs. It's a new APA and an IPA, and they're both new. I just keep those on about so that's down to, you see there, it's about 10. So it's on about 10 in here, and so these are I just keep these on about 10 psi for about maybe 2 weeks. After 2 weeks, they'll be conditioned properly, and also be fully carbonated. There's no need to really worry about whether or not they're carbonated properly, because you know that by look at the figures, which I will show you now, that if you keep the beer on at a constant pressure, which is defined there, 10 psi, a little bit over there, and at a constant temperature, these bottles will carbonate up to the correct carbonation levels. Let me show you the charts for this. Okay, so what I did, I just popped on the interweb and pulled this one up. It's Kegging. I think they're an Australian company, but it may look a little bit complicated, but all you need to do is to look down here. And these are the styles of things of beers that you want to have. So I'm normally looking for American ales, maybe British ales. So I'm looking around 2 to 2.2 really. I know that my temperature over here is set to 10. So I can come along here and say I want to have it. Look at the top here, see 2 up there, 2, 10, and my temperature should be, my PSI should be set to around 12, which, well, it's not 10 to 12. So I'll go on about 11 at the moment. So I'm in a good ballpark to actually have that correct carbonation. Now, if I decided to have um, a different beer on tap, maybe something which needs a bit of a higher one, maybe German wheat, what I would need to do is to get I either need to buy a new regulator or just actually just make sure when I'm decanting that beer from that keg, or when I've ever got that keg on pressure, I put the pressure up to, what's the good temperature again, which should be quite high. So I put the pressure up to about 31, which it actually does cover the range which I've got on my my system. Um, I wouldn't be overly. I've never really tried using that really high pressure there, but it would be a very fizzy beer, as you would see. Um, but most of the time, as I said, I keep it on 10 centigrade and around 10 to 12. And if you leave the beer on there for well over a week and just make sure it sticks at that pressure, you want to get a good combination. It's just personal preference, really. I mean, if you've got American beer, you'd like to have it really fizzy, I'd go up to the 12, 13 area. If you want to just have something which is more of a kind of English, British style, I would just come down to the sevens and eights. Um, Obviously, the advantages of having a slightly lower carbonation beer makes it more sessionable. It's not so bubbly, but on the other hand, having a bit fizzier makes it a bit more refreshing as well. And you might get slightly different flavour profiles from having more higher carbonation. So I've had a haircut since I talked about all that stuff, but that's my little bit on my kegging system. I think I bought the kegs for around £30 each. Got about 5 kegs in total, so about £150 worth of kegs. They're all second hand. I think I bought them from Get It Brewed in over in Ireland, maybe. Anyway, some company is selling them off quite cheap over there. And also, as I said, the keg, the all the pipes and all that costs £20 to £30, maybe less than that. Regulator cost about £30. The valve cost about £9, as I said, the new valve, replacement valve, and what else? Yeah, the fridge is free. I had to upgrade the wife's large fridge for hers, so because that one, which I'm using, I've got the case at the moment, just looking a bit old. Yeah, it's a strategic upgrade for me, and something to keep our food a bit warmer in a fancy environment for the missus and the rest of the family. Isn't that always the way? I can't confess I'm a professional at doing this, but this is the way I do it, and it works quite well for me. All the physics and stuff like that looks quite solid, and the way it works. You may find that some people are obsessed with forced carbonation and drinking their beer immediately as soon as it gets in the keg. I tend to take more of a kind of laid back view, where I always know if I stick, for example, an English bitter on there, it just needs to sit there and to mature a bit, like a fine cheese, as you would say. And same thing with the Americans and the very strong hoppy beers. They are strong and hoppy, and you like to have that flavour. But I find that they can be very aggressive for the first few weeks or so, and you just need to leave them in there and let the flavours mellow out and just get right, and you get a much better beer after that time, with the added advantage obviously that it clears that really well as well. You get a nice clear, crystal clear beer, and also you may find that the carbonation is a bit wishy-washy, can I say? I don't know, a bit of an English phrase, but I find the carbonation is a bit unstable when you force carb it. If you just naturally force carbonate it over a week or so, you get a much much better type of fizziness on the beer. It just seems to be completely different. I can't really explain it, but you'll find if you force carb a beer and then pour it out into a glass, you get lots and lots of bubbles all forming on the sides. It just looks like fizzy pop. Whereas if you leave it a week on the slow carbonation, when you pour it out, you get much finer bubbles and it doesn't stick to the sides. It just looks completely different. Just test it out, have a go. If you're thinking about setting up a new system, I have seen conversations with people talking. So I'm thinking about doing it. I'm holding back on doing it. I would say if you're committed to doing homebrew for the rest, for the foreseeable future, to do it straight away. It will save you a lot of fussing around with bottles. I spent far too much time wasted doing that. You'll get a nice, easy, convenient way to pour beer out, and you won't have bottles hanging around the house or anything like that, or exploding bottles. You don't get inconsistencies of carbonation in the bottles. You haven't got to think about how much sugar to stick in. You got there are quite a few, I found there's quite a lot of disadvantages to doing it, but there are some people who get some sort of sadistic pleasure out of actually bottle kegging up, or bottle conditioning, filling all their bottles up. I do advocate using bottles for things like maybe stouts and barley wines and stuff like that, where you're going to be storing it for a long time. But for normal running beers that you want to just have available, to just walk into the cupboard and say, well, some nights I say, well, I just want to have a quick half of it. I haven't got to bother about but opening the bottle and storing it or chucking it up half away. I can just pour out exactly what I want. I may even turn around one night and have like 3 pints and think, I can only drink another half. That's what I do. I can just pour that half out, and you save money as well, because obviously you haven't got to chuck away beer that you just don't feel like drinking anymore, if you ever have that situation. Right, I'm going to sign off. Please like, subscribe and share. Please leave any questions you may have on my processes, and there we are. Right, bye.